Okay, so let's hear it for Dean.
Hi. So, let me just start. If an animal is better? Okay. So, if an animal behaves like an animal, it just it just doesn't realize that it's an animal until it's just aware of it, right? So, every animal in the world has like a specific diet it follows, right? A wolf can eat grass, and a deer just can't eat meat, right? And every time an animal diverts from the diet it's supposed to eat, it starts to get sick, right? And for instance, in 1970, a golden retriever was the average lifespan of a golden retriever was 17 years, but today it's just 9 years, right? And the reason for that is just because those food companies that produce food for dogs and cats and pets in general just put in vegetables, which, like grains, which just is not, a dog and a cat is just not supposed to eat that stuff, right? So just we humans before agriculture, we were just, for instance, at Dixon Mounds, which is like a place in America, they found skeletons of ancient humans over 12,000 years ago, and they had 11% bigger brains than we have today. So they were actually smarter than us, right? And not only that, but they realized that they also had much stronger jaw bones and just much stronger skeleton bones in general, right? And never had crooked teeth for some reason, which I'm gonna explain later. So, yeah, as we know, just during the Ice Age, we humans had a hard time actually producing agriculture, producing stuff, because it was just, most of the stuff was just covered in ice, most of the world, most of the northern hemisphere, right? So we had almost no chance of actually doing agriculture, right? But it doesn't mean that it was easier in more south, where the ice sheets were not as thick, like for instance in deserts or in rainforests, because in deserts obviously it's just too hot and there is no fruitable land, so nothing can grow there. But also in rainforests, we would assume we could grow stuff there, but no, because called rainforest for a reason, because it's just raining all the time and it's just too much water. Or in desert it's too less water, in a rainforest it's too much. So before that we had no chance of growing the stuff we're growing today, right? So in 1906 there was a explorer and an adventurer called Stefan Wilhelm Stefansson, who actually lived in the Arctic Circle in the north, right? He lived with the Eskimos for 4 months, I think, and he just ate only fish mostly and some meat, and he realized that, well, some other animal meat, and he realized that he was just the healthiest he's ever been, because the Eskimos there are eating just fish and seals, I think. And yeah, he just realized, he was surprised, right? And he wrote books about it. So as I mentioned in my book, humans have a very similar pH value in our stomachs to wolves and lions, right? So wolves and lions are obviously very carnivorous, and they have a value of 1.5, right? And we have also just similar, very very similar to them, 1.56 or 1.4. And that means that the lower the pH value is, the the more carnivorous a species is, right? With only vultures having lower lower pH value than us because they're eating dead carcasses, dead bodies, right? So there was in, what was it? Yeah, ruminant animals like cows and sheep and goats, they can actually break down the plants they eat because they have the stomach for it, right? They have the multi-chamber stomach, and they can eat it, and they can turn that stuff into calories, but we humans cannot do that. So in 1966, there was a researcher called Cleve Baxter who actually invented the lie detector, right? And he was up all night, he was still drinking coffee, doing his research, and he was bored and just thought, why not attaching a plant to a lie detector, right? So he did that, and just tried to figure out what happens if I lit it on fire. Is it gonna have any emotions? So he just went to his other room, and before he had a thought of picking up the matches, the lie detector, the system would register just a lot of the motion from the plant, a lot of motion that it's afraid, right? And not only that, but it also read his mind. He realized that he tried to burn it, and so he stopped it and didn't burn the plant. Yeah. So there was another researcher or another paper from Gilbert and Orr in 1931 that compared the two African tribes. One is the Maasai, the famous Maasai tribe, and the second are the Kikuyu, or Akikuyu, or whatever they're called. And they realized that the Maasai tribe were just eating goats and sheep and cows, and just eating basically, but also just draw raw milk. Whereas the Kikuyu were just eating crops and plants and like vegetables and a lot of I don't know the details, but a lot of vegetables and juice and stuff. And they realized that the Maasai were just not only taller, but they also had like stronger teeth, and they were just healthier. They were lean. They had also more muscle mass, and none of them was fat, right? They were all completely healthy. Whereas the Kikuyu, it's a completely different story, because many of them were just plump or basically fat, and just developed things like apnea, skin rashes. They had pneumonia, pulmonary conditions, tropical ulcer, which sounds terrible, anemia, and even parasites, right? And yeah, nothing wants to be eaten in this world. So, animals can just avoid predators, or they can run away when they see a predator, or they can also defend themselves somehow by kicking and biting. But plants can't do that. But they still want to survive, so they have to find a way to actually survive somehow. And the way many plants survive is by just releasing poisons to protect themselves from predators, right? From bugs, for instance, but also from sheep, actually, from sheep and goats. But sheep and goats produce a hormone called tannins that actually protect them from the thing the grass and other vegetables produce. And it's like a arms race of evolution, where grass produces more tannins to survive, whereas goats produce more of their hormones to defend themselves, to actually be able to eat it and survive, right? So yeah. Hold on. João. Da, ali ovo je... Ne, ovo treba još ovdje da bude. Probaj ovo da pritisneš. Da ide na slideshow. Ne, slideshow. Set from beginning. Ne. Ah, okay.
Nije ceo tekst.
Dobro, pusti tako.
Okay.
Može. Okay. So, yeah. So plants produce oxalate, lectins, and other stuff, and that can just manifest as arthritis or kidney stones or other things, right? Diabetes, heart diseases, and such. So this is, for instance, the defense compound spinach has. This is a small list. There is more. So oxalates can be found in spinach, almonds, and unfortunately dark chocolate, because I like dark chocolate, right? Yeah, and actually in almonds there can also be found cyanide, right? Which is one of the most dangerous poisons ever. Just a small drop can drop every one of us. So there was this doctor called Paul Mason who actually researched dietary fiber intake, and he realized, like over onto the left we have like a control group. The next one is like the high fiber diet. Next to that is the reduced fiber diet. Oh yeah, and I should explain. Red is constipation, like those who complained about constipation. Orange is strain opening. Oh, you can read it. So, and anal breathing. So you may be realizing that the text on the right, on the bottom right, where there is no graph whatsoever, that's not a mistake. It's just that those who ate no fiber at all had no constipation, no strain opening, no bloating, no anal bleeding, and no pain. Right? So Kevin Boyd realized that crooked teeth are very rare in industrial skeletons, and in 1939, Weston Price examined humans all around the world, and these are from the Aborigines. And on the left side, you can see those who were eating like a very natural diet, mostly of meat. And you can observe their teeth. As you can see, they have perfectly fine round teeth, perfectly white. They are a bit worn out, but they're working fine. And they have no dental cavities or anything, right? Whereas the newer generation on the right, as you can see, it looks ugly. It looks bad, right? Because they were just eating with a Western diet, right? Which is full of carbohydrates and of just stuff we shouldn't eat. And this is another example. On the left we have, well, on both sides we have Eskimos, which, like I said, eat only meat. And they have, the left side is like the older generation, and as you can see, they have perfectly teeth. Maybe the left one on the corner, but it's just worn out. It's not crooked, or it's not yellow or anything. Whereas those on the right, the newer generation, have to suffer from the Western diet. Right? So yeah, like I said, we were smarter back in the day. We were 11% smarter. And this is another study by Tel Aviv University, which shows that we were apex predators for 2 million years. The studies authors collected about 25 lines of evidence from about 400 scientific papers, which is a lot. So, yeah, early carnivorous human fossils have, like I said, very strong facial bones, and the average height were, the men were 5'9", whereas the women were 5'5", which is around 1.76 m for men and 1.68 m for women, right? Whereas later plant-based human fossils, it's obvious that they were just much more unhealthy, with weaker jaws, dental crowding, tooth loss, and they were actually much shorter. They were like, men were 5'6", which is like 168. Sorry, women were 5'5" on the left side. That's 167, 1.67 m, whereas men are 5'6", which is 1.68 m, and women were around 160. And they were actually more infectious, right? Despite the myth that the raw meat, and they eat it all raw, right? Despite the myth that raw meat has bacteria, parasites, right? But it was those who ate plant who had the parasites, right? And there was a paper from 1981, Dr. Egli P. Harvard, who experimented with monkeys, right? And they were blocking their noses, so they had to breathe through their mouth, right? And when they were breathing through their mouth, they realized that they couldn't put their tongue up the roof of their mouth like this, and they had to breathe through their mouth, which over time just resulted in dental crowding, and the teeth were they had crooked teeth because they were not breathing through their noses, right? And I'm convinced that having a proper facial structure is one of the best things we can actually do for our health, because if we breathe out through our mouth, it just invites a lot of bacteria into our system, and our nose is designed to filter out those bacteria, right? So just by breathing through our mouth, it's just, first of all, it's gonna overcrowd our teeth, and we're just gonna have crooked teeth. And second, it invites bacteria, which means we're more unhealthy, and our teeth are just screwed up. So in order to, our natural state is actually where just like the monkeys, where our tongue is on the roof of our mouth, and it just stays there all the time, all right? That's how it should be. And when that happens, then our faces actually change. So usually, many of us just breathe through our mouth. Thank you. And then we have a face like that, right, on the left. But naturally, we should actually breathe from our nose. Then we would have a face like that, right, from the profile. Here we actually have a twin study of a battle with orthodontics against orthotropics, right? So orthodontics is like the regular doctor we go who tells us, oh yeah, you need braces. You know, we can't do anything about your teeth. We have to extract this teeth, so you're not gonna die. Whereas orthotropics is actually founded by Mike and John Mew, who were very revolutionary to this day, and still have a lot of influence to this day when it comes to developing a proper facial structure, right? And that. And so they did a study, like the Dr. John Mew, who was still alive 2 months ago. He just died 2 months ago. like the left brother was treated by the traditional orthodontics, whereas the right brother was treated by John Mew, by orthotropics, right? And that's the difference in their faces, right? And I think we can all agree that the right one just has a much stronger and much more better looking facial structure, because he was treated by orthotropics doctor, right? Which includes things like devices that just expand the palate here. Whereas orthodontics just don't do anything. They just take care of the effect, but they don't take care of the cause, because they're idiots, right? Thank you. So that's another example. So yeah, as you can see, by eating like a natural diet, we should actually be like the guy up there, right? We can see he has like good airways, has a straight nose, alert eyes, has like good cheekbones, straight teeth, right? Whereas many of us today just look similar to that guy down there, right? Because we just breathe through our mouth, just eat a lot of carbs, and that's what happens, right? So yeah, I want to get into lookism and the halo effect. Anyone knows what the halo effect is? No? It's unfortunate. We should all know it. Because the halo effect is, maybe you once saw the sun when it was actually really bright on the sky, and it had a halo around it. That's the halo that just made it appear much more powerful and much more beautiful than it is, right? And it's the same with animals and humans as well. When we actually look at someone, it's basically just like Nietzsche said, when you crush a butterfly, you're a villain, right? So when we actually perceive more beautiful humans and animals, or like dogs or rabbits, cats and such, we just like them because they look good, right? Whereas the opposite of it is the horn effect, right? Just like Nietzsche said, crush a cockroach and you're a hero, right? Because they're ugly and no one cares about cockroaches. And now let's get into humans. So let's focus first on the third slide from the third graph. There's been a study, actually a survey by Occupy, whatever it's called. That's a dating platform, and they were testing for how someone scores when it comes to personality, but also how someone scores, both genders, by the way, and how they score when it comes to their looks, right? And they realized that the better someone looks, the better his personality, for some reason, right? So if you look at the left guy, for instance, he's many times perceived as, when he's smart, he's going to be perceived as a nerd, or when he's shy, he's going to be awkward, or even if he's confident, he may be perceived as cocky, right? Or as a loser when he's slowly, right? Whereas if someone looks good, like the right guy over there, if he's smart, he's just going to be perceived as intelligent. If he's shy, he's cute, confident, and if he's lonely, he's just mysterious. Right? And just like Nietzsche said, morals have aesthetic criteria. Right? So in 1920, a researcher called Thorndike asked flight commanders to just evaluate their pilots, their subordinates. And they were screening for three traits. One is how good they're leading, the other one is intelligence, and the third one is physical appearance. And for some reason, the better the physical appearance was, the the better they were rated to be more intelligent and to have better leadership skills. And he just realized that, and he found it weird. And for some reason, good-looking students worldwide just get better grades, right? And there's another study, I think, another researcher called Efron. It's a bit small, but can you read it? Yeah, anyway. I should have made it bigger. So another researcher, Efron, in 1974, who just found that subjects were more lenient when sentencing attractive individuals other than unattractive ones, even though the exact same crime was committed, right? So, yeah, if we have like two criminals who committed the same crime, the one who actually looks bad is gonna be sentenced worse, right? So maybe some of you remember that face. Yeah, he was famous in 2014, and he was charged with robbery and corporal injury. He was actually part of the Southside Crips, right? And this photo got published, and within 24 hours, he got, like on the Facebook page of the department, and within 24 hours, he got 15,000 likes and 3,700 comments. Most, just like it says here on Wikipedia, mostly from women enamored of his looks, right? And then he became a meme after that. And his mother set up a GoFundMe page for his bail, and his sister used the proceeds from the campaign to hire a lawyer for him. He should have been in jail for 27 months, but he got released after 13 months, right? And a year later, he became a model. He was at the Fashion Week, and he was featured in a bunch of movies and series, and all because he looked good, right? So this is the reality for most men on Tinder, whereas that is the reality for the most women on Tinder, right? So for men, it's very difficult, as you can see there. Well, okay, that's just a picture, but obviously she does look very good, right? And the bio even says, "Drink cigarette juice with me," right? And despite of that, she has 26 matches, has a bunch of messages with guys saying things like, "Hey, beautiful, hi, sexy, love cigarette juice," right? Which is actually sad. Okay. So what can we do? We can actually do something that's called looksmaxxing, which is just improve our appearance to avoid the horn effect, right? So there are just the unconventional and conventional things. The conventional things are just like taking care of your skin, losing weight, do fashion and such. And unconventional ways are things like mewing, like I said, tongue posture, just nose breathing, and just chewing hard stuff. And the tongue has to be all the way up there. Teeth whitening, obviously, but also your aura actually improves, like your appearance as well, like the look in your eyes and such when you have more energy. Thicker neck, right? That's proper posture, and cold exposure, style of clothing, even growing taller. That's possible. By exercises and drinking a lot of milk and such. And even if you're already older, right? Although at some point there may be a limit, but it's still possible. And like thicker eyebrows, and even bleaching the skin, like the guy there did. And don't forget bone smashing. Well, no, please don't do that. At least don't do it on your own bones. If you do it on someone else, it's fine. So, I still have 1 minute left. I underestimated the time of it. So if you have a question, quick, someone can ask. Other than that, yeah. How much do I got? 1 minute? Yeah. 30 seconds.
Question from Colin.
one quick question. If somebody approaches you afterwards, will you show them some photographs of you a few years ago?
I can show you. Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody approaches him afterwards, he'll show you some photographs of himself a few years ago.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Hope
Let's
you enjoyed.
hear it for Dean. Well, they just learned something new.